Hi, everybody. Happy Monday. I am Elaine Williams. I'm here with my amazing, fabulous podcast partner, Kathy Keegan. Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. Happy Monday. Whoa. And we have some exciting stuff to talk about. And Kathy, it's so good to see you as usual.
Same here. Same
Just
here. It's
love
still
it.
from afar. Someday we will be back together in similar locations, not far from each other.
I hope so. And for our fabulous listeners, if you're new to us, welcome. We started this podcast because we wish that there were so many things we wish we had known when we both started out coaching. And we talk about the unsexy parts of business. And if those of you if you've been with us before, welcome back. Thank you so much. And, I just want to give a shout out to Kathy because, yesterday I was kind of in like a Sunday, a little bit of I should be relaxing and having fun. I should be having fun because it's Sunday. That space. And 5 minutes with her and she talked me off the ledge and we were both laughing. And, Kathy, you're just such a great, you are an amazing coach and mentor and speaker and just a fabulous human being.
Oh my gosh.
And you really bring light and love like everywhere you go,
Well, thank you. I feel the same way about you. Just the way I remember the first time we started working together and just the way you answer the phone. I just felt like, oh my God, this woman's got my back. She's got my back. And your endless curiosity, the energy you bring to a room is just fantastic. This is just, it's a sheer pleasure. And I also happen to know that someone you work with just won a speech contest and now they're going to compete on a national level. That's fantastic.
I am so excited. And she FaceTimed me, and this is a woman I met through Kathy. So this woman is already an amazing speaker and highly educated and traveled the world. She's fascinating. And she hired me. I was so lucky to get to work with her. And so I was at my desk Saturday afternoon, just kind of coming back from a trip. And she said, I won. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm not saying her name because I don't want to steal her thunder because I don't know if she's announced it everywhere.
Yeah.
But she basically, I said, well, let's play with this speech. Let's play with it. So we pulled it apart and started massaging it. And, it's like, I think of a speech or a monologue as like a big pot of soup on the stove. Ooh. And, you kind of stir it and you pour in some new stuff and then you like put it back and let it simmer. And then you bring it back up and you stir it some more. And so, she didn't think she was going to get past the first level and she did with flying colors. And so anyway, so I'm so excited. She's going on and on. So who knows?
It's so great. I think it really speaks to the way we try to show up in the world, despite what it can feel like. I mean, in some ways, this Monday is almost living up to its reputation because I felt so logy and it's been hard to get my energy going, and who knows why? Could it be that I live in Chicago and it's cloudy again? It is above freezing, so I really don't have a right to complain. But there's a thing that I do that I learned a long time ago, and it's called show up anyway. Show up anyway. Again, this is another one of Kathy's unsexy tips that really work. But there's something about having a discipline in place that I made an appointment with somebody. I said I was going to be there. I'm going to show up. I show up no matter how I'm feeling inside. And generally speaking, it's a good thing that I did. It's rare that I ever have to cancel anything, but I don't make a habit of doing that because there are a lot of times that you just don't necessarily feel like doing something, right?
Yes.
And if you waited for that feeling to come, it might. That was a lot of my whole history with depression. It was like when I felt good, I'd try to cling on to it for dear life because it was so rare I felt that way. And then you had this manic woman running around going, it's exactly like that. That's a direct quote.
Well, that's such a great thing because I think, you and I are big fans of The Artist's Way, Julia Cameron. I love her so much. And, if you're waiting to be inspired, woo, that can be a while. And, that's why I teach that 5-minute warm up, right? I'm like, I love it because it's like you do these breathing and whoa, and red leather, yellow leather, and toy boat. But it helps teach your body, oh, we're going to do this thing where I focus and I need to be somewhat articulate and somewhat animated and maybe smile a little bit, for those days when you don't feel like it. Right. And it's human, right? I mean, that's why professional guys, they warm up and they practice and they practice and they practice. And I'm sure some days are better than others.
Yeah.
And so,
yeah,
I love that.
It's like the thinking about it that's almost worse. It's like you're ready to dive into the water and it's cold, but instead of just diving into the water, you think about diving into the water. And that's what creates more of the stress than just diving into the water.
Right. Like Mel Robbins, she has that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Yeah.
Right. So much. And Debbie Ford, who I studied with for 5 years, so much of suffering is in I don't want to feel this feeling. And you've taught me most feelings are 90 seconds. And so much of our struggle and suffering is like, I don't want to feel this, and,
right.
Which I guess will bring me, like, let's talk about like what's going on, right? Like there's some crazy stuff happening in the world, crazier than usual.
Yep.
There's a war happening,
right? And
innocent people are dying, and and I think in some ways it's really exciting that social media is we are seeing what's really happening. I'm sure there's always going to be propaganda. I don't understand all of that, but there is a visceral response that we're getting. And so I feel like, and people are raising money, people are donating time and food and clothing, and people are sending people over to Poland, and I find that so inspiring. I mean, I wish we didn't have to come to war to have this happen, but at the same time, it's inspiring. And the President Zelensky, it's so inspiring, and it's also tragic. And one of the things Kathy and I work with our clients and ourselves about is like, how do you keep going when a part of you is like, this is horrible, and this is not colonial time, dude.
But we repeat history.
Like, oh my gosh. And so, we use laughter, which is one of the reasons we were so attracted to each other. Kathy has a background in improv. I have a background in, stand-up comedy, and I did improv as well. We both did musical theater. That's why we'll break into song if you're not careful. But which drives some people crazy. Side note. So somebody close to me made a comment about Stephen Sondheim that he wasn't all that. And I was like, oh, no, you didn't. And I proceeded to sing every Sondheim song that I know and love at this. And he was like, okay. And I was like, and Merrily We Roll Along was award winning. And even though it wasn't a commercial success,
it was amazing.
At the Bar and Company and a little night music. And then Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum. And then Assassins and Into the Woods, which is my all-time, and they were like, okay, calm down. Because I am passionate about Sondheim. You don't have to love him, but you got to respect the guy.
Oh my God, amazing.
Woo!
But yeah.
Love you, Stephen. Oh,
brilliant.
My gosh.
Absolutely brilliant.
He was so brilliant. And then back to our original, we were just talking about comedy and humor, and Kathy is always reading amazing books. What is the book that you are reading right now?
It's called Humor, Seriously. And I think there's a subtitle, which is Why Humor is a Secret Weapon in Business and Life. And they get into the science and the behavioral stuff behind it. So some of the science are the chemicals that get released when you're laughing. And some of the behavioral stuff is the way you are perceived, right? And all of it is better when you're laughing. Now, that's not to say, I'm also reading a book right now that is wonderful. It's called Bittersweet, and that's by Susan Cain. And she wrote the book Quiet, which, believe it or not, I loved because I am an introvert. I know I don't sound like one. But the idea is it's not always to put a positive spin. It's not tyrannical positivity, like be positive no matter what. It's the perspective. And sometimes the perspective is bittersweet. And with humor in an office situation, it can relieve a lot of tension. I was actually just sharing a story with a couple of people about deathbed humor. And there were things that happened, like when, and I kid you not, my mother is in the ER, she's on life support, and she's on some kind of a medication. So every time she woke up, she just found out she had a heart attack. And my brother goes up to her and says, "Mom, I'm so sure you're going to pull through that I didn't even bring a suit." And basically, to interpret that, we didn't think we'd have a funeral here. And so, right. And the whole room. And then my mother, I thought she was going to lose all of her, had all kinds of tubes and everything. She started laughing so hard. So there are moments that can really, really release a lot of tension. And so look for where those are, right? Look for where those are. It doesn't mean you go in, you don't go in with a tight five, just on somebody's deathbed, but it's really just the idea of just kind of being there and showing up and being in the moment and recognizing all that can happen.
Yeah. And I get it. Like, I think anybody can work on developing a funny muscle, watching, super tip, watch 5 minutes of YouTube every day. And, and if you're, and be inquiring instead of like, I don't like him, like I don't care for Andrew Dice Clay because I think he's a misogynistic a-hole. And I can respect that he has had two sort of risings and fallings. I respect that. Don't have to like him. Certainly not going to watch him. Bill Maher, I think, is a brilliant comedian and writer. Would I want to date him? Hell no. I think he's, from what I've heard, not a very nice person, especially to women, but I can still appreciate him. Yep. You can appreciate somebody's humor without having to like buy into all of it.
Yeah.
And you can laugh along the way and give yourself those feel good chemicals and burn calories and release toxins for free.
For free. That's right. For free. It's a skill that we can all develop. So humor is a skill that we can all develop. And I have another really interesting statistic. A 4-year-old laughs as many as 300 times per day.
Wow.
The average 40-year-old laughs 300 times every 2.5 months. We have work to do, people.
We do. And, I'm just going to, I got to tour for several years. And even though it was an amazing experience, it was what I call break even. So by the time you fly to Denver and get paid $350 for the weekend, which is great, and you stayed in the comedy condo and your flight was $300 and it cost you $50 to get to the airport and back. And if you sold some t-shirts, you could eat. Like, that was really fun. But after a while, you're like, I cannot keep doing this unless I find this rich husband who has eluded me so far. But, when people leave and they're glowing, and when people leave and they have had fun together, couples that laugh together, stay together,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that is worth all of those shitty basement gigs and podunk places. And, just like, it's such a beautiful gift. And it is challenging to make people laugh sometimes. And gosh, it's so fun when they're with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think if we could all learn to laugh a little bit more, we can't always, especially right now with COVID still, the numbers are going back up, whatever. But like, if you can't get a hug, you can give yourself like oxytocin from laughing, which is the same chemical from the hug. So love it.
Yeah. And I think, it's realizing it. And to me, I still, and I've said this probably so many times on the podcast, is that if you told me there was a pill for humor, I'd want someone to prescribe it to me.
Oh,
because
hell
I'm
yeah.
very, very conditioned to believe that there's an immediate solution. And life isn't really like that. And there's a time that would have been hard to hear that. But now I know that things pass. We were talking about that whole 90-second thing. most things don't stay. And if they do stay, then you can, or like an emotion, for example. And if they do, then you can kind of just stop and say, well, what's going on here?
Right.
What is it? My husband's now back at work. And so I'm at the house today, and it's not our, pod of, whatever, for COVID. And so it's really different.
Wow.
It's really, really different.
In an office.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So,
wow.
So it's very, very strange. And I just got a text from him from things he forgot, because we're not used to doing that,
Wow.
And so we're always going through some kind of changes of some sort, and having a little bit of humor about it. And again, we're not saying that if you don't have it, that it's, it's bad, or that you're always supposed to be like, chin up, buttercup. That's really annoying. Nobody wants to hear that. It's just that we have all these really cool tools at our disposal that we can use at any given moment.
Yes. And, I ran into this friend of mine who's a sober sister, and her daughter has had all kinds of challenges. She was in an accident and Lyme, and, it's been like this whole thing. And I said, well, how's your daughter doing? And she said, well, believe it or not, she is doing EMDR or whatever, because she had toxic positivity. She had trauma from toxic positivity. And a part of me is like, are you kidding? But like, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
And, and I think that's one reason you and I are so driven to be vulnerable, to be like our messy selves, because I grew up in Texas, where I was constantly told I was too much. I was a pain in the ass. I was too much and not enough. I got that. And so many women I know got that. So I know I'm not unique in that way, but I was not allowed to express anger, sadness, fear. I was supposed to be happy. And then if I got in trouble, which I feel like I was always in trouble, it was okay to cry then. And then we ended with a forced hug. It's a miracle. When I think, I'm like, it is a miracle that I have friends and that I'm in intimate relationships, because looking back, I'm like, I am so happy that I didn't go the other,
Well, I remember
the route I almost went. But like, it's so, and I think we do have these like double standards of like, just do your thing, be yourself. But I understand if you're a teenager, or a teenager in a 50-something-year-old body, you're like, who am I?
Right.
Who am I today? And like, if I'm going to march to my own beat, there might be some consequences.
Right.
I feel like sometimes we in our culture of like, just drink another Starbucks, crank up the iTunes, just go.
Right.
But it's like,
depending on your frame that day, that may or may not appeal to you, depending on your frame of reference. When I was about 12, my mother decided we would all start hugging each other. We just didn't touch each other,
I know, children.
And so, I mean, the first time I had to do a stage kiss, you could have fit a family of 5 between the two of us when I kissed him on stage. The people, the director was howling with laughter. It's like, you could not get any farther away from this guy except for your face. And, and so, they were, I was like, hug. Okay, that's fine. And hugging is a good thing. There's nothing wrong with hugging. But you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So, there's a lot of that. And thank God there are all these modalities out there like EMDR, because what it means is we're understanding more about people, about the brain. And so there are more ways to help more people.
Yes. And I'm so proud. I'm reading a book right now.
Yay!
Because Kathy so I'm reading this book called Power versus Force. And I was sort of rereading it. And I was, do you ever like start and you're like, oh yeah, now I remember why I didn't finish it. Cause it is like dense, but I just got to a fun part where they're talking about muscle testing. And this guy was talking about metaphysics and muscle testing and the kinesiology and stuff way back, like in the 60s and 70s. In the 1970s, they did not think that food had any relationship to brain stuff.
Oh, they still think that in hospitals.
Like, isn't that, I mean,
most hospitals' food is just horrible. It's like you're trying to kill your patients, right?
Right. Like you're right. It's so true. And why is that accepted? Why do we pay all this money for it? How did we give all of our power away? But that's another one woman show, right? So, but anyway, they were talking about muscle testing and how he would do these demonstrations, and he would have like vitamin C packets in some envelopes and artificial sweeteners in other envelopes. And everybody tested weak with the artificial sweetener and strong muscle testing with the vitamin C. So anyway, I'm just fascinated, and I'm so grateful that I have this curious mind, and I always am wanting to learn more.
Yeah.
And, that being said, Kathy and I have, we have learned so much from this amazing journey that we've been on. We started recording in 2019.
Wow. Right before the El Pandemico.
Well, so we were doing like Zoom recording stuff. And then our fabulous team, Stefan, built a studio for us in Brooklyn. And then we did 5 amazing episodes recording on our own set, which was so fun.
Oh
and
my
so
gosh.
Exciting. And I'll never forget, after our first episode, Kathy was like, "Oh, by the way, I'm moving to Chicago." And I was like, "No!" But we figured out a way to keep going. And it has been such a wonderful journey. And we've had so many amazing guests. We've had all female except for Roland, who is amazing. And I owe him a call.
And you know what? Isn't today Sheridan's birthday? I think she was our first guest.
Oh my gosh. I'm so embarrassed. I'm the worst friend. Yes, it is her birthday.
And she was our first guest.
Yeah, thank you. I'm writing myself
it has been, trying to do things and all these changes, it's a lot to handle, because we were talking with somebody yesterday who moved to Chicago about 6 months ago. And it was another one of those things where there was a short time frame and it was just like, up you go and here you go. And she had been rooted in a place for many, many years. Wow. And it's not easy because you start to live in your local world. You also have another world that exists that was your daily life before.
Right.
And, trying to make peace with that. How do you stay in touch? What are the things you can do when you're far away? All that, we're dealing with it all the time. And I wish I had a nice pat answer. The main thing is just to show up for myself and to ask for help to get clarity on what my next step needs to be in reaching out to people, I
love that. And that's the perfect segue because Kathy and I have decided that we're going to be putting our podcast, Still Human, on hold for a while. We have loved doing it, and we both have gotten pulled in different directions, and there's a lot happening. And so we have decided, after many discussions and so much joy and laughter, that this is going to be the final episode for now.
Mm-hmm.
And it may just keep going in different formations. And, we've gotten amazing feedback. People have said, you make us laugh. We love your banter. You talk about deep topics. Yeah. And we're so grateful for everybody who's been with us on the journey, whether you've been on the whole way or just a stop or whatever.
Well, and if you just joined us, you can go back because we've recorded, this is our 45th episode.
Woohoo!
So this has been such a fun ride. It's taught us so much. And here's the cool thing. Elaine and I are still friends. We didn't break up. Mommy and Daddy or Mommy and Mummy are still friends.
Yeah. And, that's a really great, that was always important to me because I really love Kathy, who she is as a human being. And, partnership has not been my strongest suit. I have never been married for a reason. And I live alone for a reason. And And it was really interesting because, they say whatever's, life is happening for you. And there were several times where I would just feel like this ego and like, you're not doing what I want, or this isn't happening, or, and how I'm, so it was really a great and humbling lesson to see how what I do in relation to partnership, and there is more work for me to do. And I got to do a lot of that with us too.
Yeah. And the way you could honestly bring things up, and we could be honest with each other. And, we even went to a retreat, and it was part of the retreat was to get some more clarity around it. Right. And so that's the commitment that we have to each other and continue to have to each other, is just, what is the next best step? What should we be doing here? What else should we be talking about and covering? So I think it is important, because it is doing things for any period of time. There are the challenges, right? And so sometimes you decide to keep going, and sometimes you decide to stop. And the good news is that our friendship is intact. And that is the most important thing in the world to me. And I sort of feel that way about work in general, that I value the people more than anything else.
Right.
That in whatever it is we do, even though I can also on a dime say, oh, people, because we are all that, right? We contain multitudes, and sometimes the multitudes are lovely and fun and adorable, and sometimes they are so ugly.
Yes. And we're seeing that on the world stage right now, big time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So it has just been amazing. I've learned so much. I've learned that I am so curious, and I do love talking to different people about all kinds of different things. I've learned that I still resist structure, which I guess I kind of already knew. And I've learned that there is always more to learn,
Right. And that's a good thing. That it is about seeing the opportunity in a situation. Somebody recently reached out to me to talk about coaching, to see whether we might be a fit. And she used the term blessing and a curse when she was describing something. And I said, yeah, that can be, that's the both and, that there are things that have that bittersweetness to it, that is part and parcel of what it is we go through life. And we were talking yesterday, Elaine and I was talking about my depression albums when I was growing up. And for those of you who don't know, an album is a series of songs on a disc. A big, record. Huge, we call them LPs, long playing.
Like a phonograph.
Yes, exactly. But I had those, and what that did was it elicited some kind of release, crying, laughing, whatever it was. And so there is something about things that are in a minor key. Of course, one of my favorite movies is Spinal Tap. And of course, there's the part where he's like, D minor, the saddest of keys. And, minor keys they do evoke something, but music is another way for you to process and feel without having to put words to it. You let the musicians do their job, and you listen and you respond.
Yeah.
We have so many wonderful tools right at our disposal. It just, sometimes you feel like there could be something better. So you're like, oh, I wish.
Well, and I think, two things I want to just say as we wrap up. I have the disease of more. I have many addictions, and I'm doing great, knock on wood. But, I was just talking about this in my morning meditation meeting. There's a part of me that's like, no matter how good it is over here, it looks a little better. Oh, I'll have what she's having. Oh, that looks like fun. Even if I know it's like not smoking. Ooh, there's just a part of me that is always going to be, I think it's like this 5% part of me that's like, ooh, it looks cooler because it's over there, and so if I can laugh at that part of me and have compassion for that part of me, right? And then, mental health, thank God, is really in the forefront.
Yay.
So we have been talking about laughter. We always talk about coaching. And, I had the privilege of speaking at an AA meeting Wednesday night. And I'm always grateful. Like, you're like, okay, I'll do the commitment. But, I'm always grateful because it represences me to my own transformation and healing and the power of the programs and how it has helped millions and millions of people. Very imperfectly, not perfect, but, for what happens, the magic of coming together and identifying and healing and doing the step work. And one guy shared about how he was really having a rough time, that he was really missing and I said, go work out, go get your heart rate. After I hung out afterwards because he was new, and it's hard to be young and new. It's hard to be new whatever age you are. And I said, go work out, get your heart rate up, go walk fast. Even if you can't jog, get on a bike, pick up some weights, like something about 20 minutes of moving your heart rate will help that endorphin kick off, and it will help your cravings.
Yeah.
And, I just wish more people knew about that.
Yeah. Well, like, you know what I'm thinking of right away is the Pomodoro technique, which was basically a timer that's shaped like a tomato. Pomodoro means tomato in Italian. And basically what he can do, I know, Kathy, can't you just say something like a thing and it doesn't have a whole backstory?
No, I love it. I didn't know that was a tomato in Italian. I always wondered.
But the idea of using a timer, and I will do this, where I'll say, you only have to do this. So when I'm in that state of mind, and you've just given me this great advice, it's just like, I don't want to. I don't like what she's telling me. I will say, okay, I'll do it for a minute. And now I'll just set my timer on my phone. And I start for a minute, and usually once I start, I keep going. It's kind of the whole idea of showing up. Like I show up for my workouts. I'm still transitioning from believing working out is for torture and weight loss. And now, I appreciate that I'm getting stronger. And I appreciate that about what's going on. Of course, the part that I don't appreciate is that I'm at an age where you kind of have to let people know you're doing this, because otherwise they have no idea. You're like, no, trust me. I was way worse before. But now, it feels good to be doing it. But there are days when I still will have a hard time. So I make an appointment in my calendar, and it says like marvelous exercise with lots of, exclamation points. And I go down there and I go into the room and I show up, and then I start doing something.
Yep.
And maybe it's only a few things, maybe it's more, but those little tiny things can make such a huge difference to get you started, especially when every bone in your body is like, I hear what this nice lady is saying, that is such a good idea. How the heck am I going to start? And you just start super small.
And it's great because you could also apply that towards your taxes, towards social media, towards building your coaching practice. You start with one thing. So,
yeah, that's a super tip.
Super tip. So, Kathy, if people want to know more about you, how do they find you? What do they do?
Well, if you can see on YouTube, I don't know if this will come up, but I tried to type www.kathykeegan.com, and the letters are all kind of weird. But that is how you get a hold of me, is Kathy Keegan.
Kathy Keegan,
Kathy. Yeah. Kathy at kathykeegan.com. Let's set up a time to chat. I'd love to get to know what's going on with you and see if there's a way I can help you achieve whatever it is you want in your life, especially in your work life.
She's really great with work. She's really great with helping you decide to stay in your business job or leave your job elegantly without burning bridges or blowing the place up, which is always a plus.
It's really important. I just thank you so much. That's so beautifully put. Elaine, how must people reach you?
Well, thanks for asking. I'm so excited. I'm going to be doing a Reels challenge in a couple of weeks, because I think everybody should be doing short form video because it's easier. It's fun. You don't have to be perfect and polished and poised. You can do super short things, and it's the editing, and it's just amazing. So I do a masterclass twice a month. So the best way is captivatethecrowd.com. Get your confidence on camera checklist, at captivatethecrowd.com. And that way you will be informed when I'm doing my free master classes, or you can come into captivatethecrowd.com public group on Facebook. And that way you can come play and learn about short form video, because it is hot, hot, hot. And one thing I love is that the more you do it, the more confident you are when you're speaking in person, which is coming again soon, right? Like coming soon to a theater near you. At some point, we're going to be back with people, and that is exciting. And for some people, that is going to be scary. And, come practice now.
Yeah. Just think of all the skills we've developed during COVID.
Eating in front of the computer. No.
Not spilling stuff on your computer.
Right. That's always good.
We are so grateful to you, our listeners, and thank you just so very much. This has been, and I'm so grateful to you, Elaine, for helping me crawl out of my little shell. Well, it's not that little, but it's like a medium-sized shell, because that you've helped bring me to life, and I'm very grateful to you for that.
Well, I'm so grateful that we did this, and I know we will continue in some form. And I also want to just thank Stefan. He has been, our editor has just been adorable. He is wonderful and flexible, and he has done our editing and our posting, Birch Media. Really, really great. And I know he has a lot of clients, but he always made us feel like we were the only ones.
Yeah.
And was tactful and charming and just really a delight to work with. So
big shout out to Stefan.
Yes. So I'm like, talk about bittersweet.
Yeah.
But I know that we will stay in touch, and I know that we're both going to be going on, and we'll be carrying on our vulnerable, authentically awkward, funny, vulnerable coaching, speaking selves.
Yes.
And just thank you so much. And remember to laugh and move your body, everybody.
Yep. Move.
And we need you.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
So long. Farewell.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Good night. Good night.